Chapter 2. Ameria clenched her hands tightly and scanned the area for something to throw. However, since they were standing in the center of the great hall, there was nothing within reach. She glared at her father, whose brow was furrowed tightly, indicating that he was on the verge of losing his own temper. He spoke slowly, working the knot from his brow with his fingers.
The other races are, simply put, dangerous and unpredictable. You're only 98 and too young to understand,
He said. She threw her hands in the air.
That's the point. They are unpredictable, and this is exactly what we desperately need. Can't you smell it?
Gesturing around her, with her hand in a sweeping motion.
The stench of it, the stench of us becoming stagnant?
Her father rolled his eyes.
Always the same argument. We are expanding. Are we not opening 2 new temples this spring?
Her shoulders slumped slightly, and her tone was flat.
And how many temples of Azarath Metreon do we need? I believe that makes 220 now.
They both heard the soft tinkle of chimes.
I have other matters to attend to. And frankly, the matter is moot, as the elders will not consider contact with the other races, and that's final.
She opened her mouth, but bit down on her tongue when she looked into her father's face. Ameria resolutely turned and marched out of the hall. Her father's eyes followed her, his expression filled with concern. She failed to notice how those who encountered her in the hall would quickly scurry out of sight upon catching a glimpse of her face. She hurried to the courtyard, which was filled with a dazzling array of multicolored flowers, their fragrance evoking pleasant thoughts. Several fountains were strategically placed to enhance the sense of tranquility.
I am so sick of this place.
Amarisa thought to herself as she snorted at the flowers.
It never changes. Year in and year out, it is always the same.
She resisted the urge to start ripping the flowers out by their roots. Instead, she paused just long enough to spot a group of young elves gathered on the far side of the courtyard. Quickly, she made her way over to them.
I take it by the look on your face that he said no.
Fire Ephil said.
Do you really need to ask?
Ameria said, glaring at Farael, who simply smiled back at her.
I realize it was a slim hope, but there's no reason to take it out on us. Remember, we share the same views on the subject.
Farael said this with a straight face, but there was humor in his eyes that irked her. She knew he was right. Ameria glanced over the group she considered her friends and nodded in agreement.
My father is so stubborn.
America said.
You know what they say, the blossom never falls far from the tree.
Farael said with a quick grin. He skillfully danced out of Ameria's striking range. The others erupted in laughter until she whipped her head in their direction. Finally, she cracked a smile, prompting the others to laugh once more. She knew all too well that her friends would not let her stay mad. After the laughter subsided, Thou spoke up.
So what should we do now?
We could wait until one of us becomes an elder,
Ellis suggested. Thou curled his lips into a sneer, which marred his delicate features.
Yes, let's wait. It will only take 800 years or so.
Thou said. Ellis's eyes puffed slightly, and she withdrew a little from the others.
Thou?
Ameria snapped, causing Thou and the others to blink in surprise. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Fire struggling to suppress another grin by covering his mouth with his hand.
She is only trying to help,
she concluded calmly.
Of course.
Thou said as he turned to Ellis.
I am sorry. Please forgive me.
She immediately smiled and shuffled closer to the group again.
So I suppose we are back to square one.
Fire said. His eyes suddenly lit up as he began to dance around, causing the others to laugh at his antics.
Unless the other races come knocking on our door, we may have to wait 800 years.
He said, and continued to twirl and spin as the others clapped, encouraging him to keep going. He stopped abruptly when he noticed Ameria's expression.
You know I don't like that look in your soul. The last time you led us in releasing a pack of pixies in the main square, do you remember that and what happened?
Yes, but perhaps you remember.
Ameria said.
We believed the pixies were being treated unfairly. How was I supposed to know that pixies are nothing more than mischievous imps? After all, we were no more than 30 at the time.
She glared back at him.
Yes, and they proceeded to turn the entire place upside down. If I remember correctly, I spent 4 weeks as a tree, and you?
She raised her hand.
Yes, I'd prefer not to revisit that memory. However, this time I have more knowledge and a plan.
The night wind was cool, but not unpleasant, as Ameria heard the others shuffling behind her. Progress was slow, as the clouds obscured most of the twin moons. She could make out the sound of a stone being scraped, then a rock went over the edge. It bounced once, twice, then silence. At this height then were unlikely to hear. It hit bottom.
How did I ever allow you to talk me into this?
Fire Ale's voice floated gently on the wind to her ear.
Because I have you twisted around my soul.
Ameria said. He was quiet for a moment or two.
At least you're honest about it.
He said. They both smiled unseen in the darkness.
This is going to be tough. It's a long journey to Norof and the Great Council. Once we arrive, it should be easy to convince them that they need us as much as we need them. They can't possibly refuse what we have to offer. We surpass them in science and art, and our natural magic is far more potent. Additionally, our system of governing is more practical.
Ameria thought. She carefully adjusted her handhold on the sheer rock face as the ledge narrowed slightly.
They will want us to help guide them, and in return we will achieve change and growth. This is what we need, even if the elders are too blind to see it.
Her thoughts were interrupted as the wind attempted to pluck her from the ledge while she rounded the far side of the mountain. Ameria quickly signaled to the others to exercise caution and continue to cling to the rock wall, ensuring that the wind could find no purchase to carry her off into the darkness. This side of the mountain was shrouded in darkness, and even with her keen eyesight, the path was nearly impossible to discern. The clouds seemed to find it amusing at this time to obscure the moons, plunging the group into total blackness.
Great, now I can't see a blasted thing. I suppose it's safe to use a spell now since we are on the far side away from prying eyes.
She opened her mind and felt around until she discovered several strands of magic floating nearby. She mentally reached out and grasped the nearest strand. Once she had a firm hold of it, she began pulling and stretching it into the shape of a small sun. Slowly she extended her hand out and then gently pushed the image of the sun into her palm, then spoke the word.
So?
A small ember of light seemed to spring forth out of nowhere in the palm of her hand. The tiny ember began to glow brighter as she expanded the image of the sun. Then she sensed that something was wrong. The orb started to throb and shimmer as she struggled to control the image she had formed.
Dear Mother of Amhark, it's a surge!
She frantically tried to discard the image and disengage from the strand. The orb shot out several small silver tendrils that anchored themselves to her. A memory flashed through her mind. The image was of Ameria when she was very young. She was gathered with her friends as Sitek was teaching them the proper way to shape magic when someone asked about the surges.
This is an excellent question. First, they are correctly referred to as wild surges, as their behavior is entirely unpredictable. It is widely believed that surges are remnants or manifestations of very powerful magic left over from the Light War. For the most part, they are harmless unless manipulated for magical purposes,
he said as he moved to the front of the small group.
Judging by the expressions on your faces, you need not worry. The likelihood of encountering a wild surge is very low. Over the past 3,000 years since the Light War, the number of reported encounters with surges has steadily declined. It is generally believed that within the next 900 years they will cease to exist.
What do you do if you happen to grab a surge?
Valsa inquired, his expression shifting to a more somber tone.
To be perfectly honest, all you can do is pray to the upper beings and strive to maintain your sanity.
Ameria was jolted back to the present as she observed the orb flashing more rapidly, while the thin threads that bound her began to swell and accumulate in unimaginable power. The energy was starting to overwhelm her as she struggled futilely to prevent the torrent of power from surging into her hand. She broke out in a heavy sweat, and her breathing became labored.
What's wrong, Ameria?
Fire Owl's voice reached her, edged with concern, but she had no strength to answer. She was locked in a losing struggle, the magic tearing at her as if to rip her in two. Her defenses faltered, and the power surged upward, breaking free through her hand. The orb blazed suddenly, swelling into a miniature sun, its radiance flaring so fiercely it seemed it could light half the continent. Her mind went numb beneath the storm of chaos, and she squeezed her eyes shut against the maddening, all-consuming light. It felt as though she were drowning, until, suddenly, a strange calm settled over her. When she opened her eyes, she floated before a wall of fire, stretching into eternity, boundless and without edge.
Where in Ray's name am I?
Amira wondered.
Between life and death.
Firael's voice echoed back to her, thin and distant. Ameria turned in search of him, but a sudden wave of vertigo sent her reeling. The wall of fire rippled, then melted into a vast, simmering lake, and she found herself drifting weightless above its surface. Slowly Firael emerged, reclining upon the flames as though they were a bed of silk, smiling up at her. Yet something in his gaze unsettled her, an unfamiliar depth she had never glimpsed in him before. The sight stirred a shudder in her chest. She tried to call his name, but her voice caught. It was as if some invisible weight pressed against her throat, choking the sound before it could escape.
It's okay, Ameria. Words are not necessary here.
She heard his calming tone more in her head than aloud.
You say we are caught between life and death. Does that mean we are dead? How are you here with me? What if we can't—
Our time is short.
There was an edge to his tone that silenced her thoughts as she waited for him to continue.
To answer your first question, no, you are not dead. You will survive this. I am here to warn you. The path set before you, you must accept. You will be alone and despised, with no refuge to call home. Trust only the king, for the bishop will betray you.
He began to fade from her sight, and the flames seemed to lose some of their intensity.
Wait, I don't understand what you are saying.
The flames dwindled, their heat fading as shadows pressed in. Sensation crept back into her body, heavy and unwelcome, while her thoughts grew sluggish and frayed. Though his form had vanished from sight, the tether of his presence lingered, faint but unbroken, within her mind.
You are my half of my soul, and for that, I will always love you. May the upper beings guide and protect you,
he said. With that, the world went dark,